The first gameplay for Total War Warhammer 3 has finally released, a battle preview called The Assault on the Brass Citadel. And now that you've seen it and had a little time to digest it, it's time that we sit down, put the hype aside, and talk about realistic expectations. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that you can still be excited for a game's release, but be critical of what you've seen. This entire video could have been recorded as an angry rant, but I'm more interested in having a conversation. If you watched my battle preview video for Total War Saga Troy, you know that these early preview events can be a mixed bag. With Warhammer 3, I at least had fun. I think. It's actually hard to tell because the battle was so long. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you have already seen footage of the survival battles, as the mechanics can get somewhat dense and I don't want to spend that time here. If not, you can find a link up above. Clocking in at 45 minutes, I had to stop in the middle of it to help put my kids to bed to be able to finish it. And this isn't just me. The actual design document from the Creative Assembly said it should take about 45 minutes, which is a bit odd considering the average battle time for Warhammer is 5 to 10 minutes. By the time I got to the end of the fight, I wasn't worried so much if I was going to win or lose. It's that I was dreading having to fight back through it again for an additional uninterrupted 45 minutes. According to the developers, these survival type battles will only be tied to the main quest line in Warhammer 3, implying there will be one for each of the 4 major god citadels, and then maybe an additional for the final battle at the end. So as interesting as this new pseudo tower defense style battle is, it's not like you're going to be encountering it very often. Which then begs the question, why was this what was shown to the press as the first gameplay footage for Warhammer 3? It's eye candy. It's very pretty, it's very colorful, it has nice art design, all the units really pop and look great in screenshots. Tsarina Katarina's sliding around Iceman animation on her block of ice is especially notable and cool, and the portaling in animation is directly ripped from Avengers Endgame, which I mean is fine, it was a great moment. And while the armies of Khorne look very cool, they do use some recycled assets from a 5-year-old game, including nearly all the animations for the Chaos Warriors. Now, new animations have obviously been added, and most notably, the ability for flying lords to land on the ground. So on the one hand, it's awesome that flying lords can finally fly and land like they're supposed to on the tabletop, but whether or not this is exclusive to this character or will now be available to all flying characters has not been revealed. This is a frequently requested feature, and while it's great to see glimmers of hope with it here, another request is conspicuously absent. One of the most anticipated changes for Warhammer 3 is a rework of the siege battles. Many expected the first battle preview video to showcase just this. Instead, we've been treated to what is effectively an extended roster reveal. Theoretically, survival battles could be used as siege battles, creating epic final pushes for certain faction capitals. But during developer interviews, they certainly imply that that is not the case. So you're left to wonder why the developers spent so much time focusing on a quest battle system that will largely be ignored and unplayed the moment the combined world map releases. It's great that the Creative Assembly finally decided to add a new game type that hasn't been reused for the last 15 years since Rome 1. I mean, how many times can you play the same land, siege, or ambush battles before you begin to notice the similarities? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about naval battles, but then again, so did they. But to be fair, the survival battles may not have actually taken very long to create. The system where hordes of enemies with low HP swarm in to flood and attack you has been around since Warhammer 2 in the most recent quest battles for Draika and the Sisters of Twilight. When you summon a new tower or barricade, you'll notice that it has a distinctly Khorne-esque aesthetic, implying that no matter which faction you're playing, it will always be the same towers summoned in at that location. As a mechanic, the newly added barricades and summonable palisades that can mount units on them will be instantly recognizable to anyone who has played any of the historical Total War titles. They're hardly new to the game series, they're just new to Warhammer. And while they are a cool addition that will shake up how survival battles work, you're left to wonder if they've been added to regular siege battles, or even as regular battlefield deployables, like stakes or traps, which have also been available in previous Total War games. Even basic formations ported over could make a huge difference to the way the game plays, but again, none of this was present in the battle preview, the thing that was released specifically to get you excited about what's new and exciting for the battles in Total War War Warhammer 3. And while we're talking about cut features, where are the flag and banner carriers? Where are the musicians that everyone has been asking for? These were around in Empire Total War. There's even a leftover spot in the database files where they could still be plugged in. But this isn't the only remnant still in the game. Units still have issues with blobbing, and especially with cavalry, if a single entity gets stuck into a large blob of the enemy, it's hard to pull the entire cavalry back out again to then initiate a proper charge. Complaints about enemy AI for sieges and pathfinding could be readily lifted from Rome 1 and still applied here today. In the new survival mode, when you put up a deployable wall, the enemy AI slams itself against it and never tries to go around. Based on initial impressions in the early test battle, unit balance is still also questionable, with ranged units especially still dominating the battlefield. What I'm trying to say here is modulate your expectations. Warhammer 3 is not the second coming. It is an iterative game, and might better be described as Warhammer 1 version 3.0. Realistically, this game could have been repackaged as an expansion pack or supersized DLC for Game 1, and very little would have changed mechanically from what we've seen so far. But as this is a series that's been in development for over 6 years at this point, some things have changed from Game 1 that make Game 3 and its supposedly connected world feel a bit questionable. The feeling of power creep while playing as Kislev is very real, and the unit design for them, while visually distinct and interesting, doesn't match the early Game 1 factions. These really look like someone shaved a gorilla and then shoved them into a suit of armor. Yes, it's cool, but it does make it seem like every man of the Empire needs to take a day at the gym, and the textures in particular from previous games are in dire need of updates to match this new, admittedly epic standard. At the end of the day, I'm left to wonder why the Creative Assembly insists on showing these battle previews before campaign gameplay footage, or specifically releasing a video that highlights the changes and improvements from previous entries in the series. On the one hand, battles are one of the most unique aspects of the Total War series, but most people will spend 95% of their campaigns on the campaign map, and the battles can be entirely skipped or auto-resolved. In fact, less than 25% of you have even participated in a multiplayer battle. Now, this could be because of a lack of ladder ranking system or a truly supported season-based multiplayer tournament system, but it does show where most of your concerns lie. And this battle preview answers none of those questions. But my goodness, it is very pretty, and it will encourage you to pre-order the game. Personally, I need to see more than what is effectively a pre-scripted cinematic before I can decide whether or not significant enough improvements have been made to the game to truly call this Warhammer 3. Now, all of this may sound harsh for what is undoubtedly a first look at the battles of the game, but it is the official press reveal, implying that the game is in a late stage of development, and if we don't ask these questions, there is no reason for the company to answer them. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hopefully talking about the improvements that have been made to the game, such as reworked diplomacy or improved trade routes, and other quality of life changes that unfortunately were considered too uninteresting and unimportant to be included as part of the showcase for this first look at the gameplay of Total War Warhammer 3.